Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Fantasy Warfare Tournament presented by TNT Thursday Night Throwdown. I am back officially on the show this week alongside Sean Bates of the Scumbags of Wrestling and Mr. Stephen O'Neill of the Scumbags of Wrestling, as well as Toronto, as well as Kenny Omega Hater over there. So how are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Okay.
I mean, just okay.
To be honest, it was a bad weekend, so yeah, it's Monday.
Okay, all right, we'll leave it at that. But anyways, this is exclusive to those first on our Throwdown Army on Patreon. You can check us out, patreon.com/TN Throwdown CA. But this week we are doing the greatest women's champion. So 16 of the very best. Sean was just mentioning before we went on air, quite a few that we could have added to it, easily made a bracket of 24, 32 women. We have been talking about doing the greatest men's champion one, and we may do a 4-show special featuring 64 of the greatest names in championship wrestling history. So we'll have to wait and see on that. As I'm bringing up the list, Sean or Steven, maybe you guys want to just tell some of the names that aren't on the list.
Well, I sent you guys a list thinking who were picked is a interesting group in itself, but then to notice that Lita, Becky Lynch, Ivory, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, Michelle McCool, Rockin' Robin, Wendy Richter, and God knows how many other ones are missing from this list, but those 8, just to name a few, and wow.
I was thinking after Awesome Kong.
Exactly. Like there's so many that we could have picked and not even delve too deeply into the Divas era, because really, if you look at it, we might have, 2 from the Divas era in the list right now, and Michelle McCool is out of it as well. But other than that, we could fill way more than 16.
Yeah, so it's the names on the list are definitely prominent, dominant, as well as amazing talents as far as holding the championships go. But like Sean and Steve were saying, some of the names that we had to bypass was absolutely amazing. So the way we did it, myself, Sean, Steven, and then Jonesy had picked 4 each again, so totaling the 16. So we really had no control over each other's picks. I was last in, but I wanted to see who everybody else was picking first. So as you can see, bracket lineup randomizer, brackethq.com. First round match is Trish Stratus taking on Alundra Blaze. It's going to be one of those shows. Sasha Banks taking on Chyna. Charlotte Flair taking on Sherry Martel. Fabulous Moolah taking on Bayley. And then to continue from there, Angelina Love taking on Tessa Blanchard. Natalya taking on Mae Young. Gail Kim taking on Manami. I'm just going to call it Toyota. And Bull Nakano taking on AJ Lee. So those are your brackets right there. I'm still undecided about one, but it's not until I think the 6th or 7th match. So I'll leave it at that. But definitely going to be a tough one here. It's some random matches that came up. Like some of them are just who do you pick? And there's a few of them in here. So how are we going to do this first? Sean, you want to start things off? We'll do the first one here.
Yeah, sure. Trish Stratus versus Alundra Blaze. Now, are we also going to consider Medusa, or if we're just doing Alundra? So if it's just Alundra, she basically captained a division that only had her and whoever they brought in for that time of the month or time of the year until they flipped it to somebody else. I know actually somebody that was on the bubble that didn't make it and even on the list was Bertha Faye. So she got brought in. Bull Nakano got brought in. Like, it was only just because there was a need to have 2 women present in WWE at the time, or WWF. And we know what happened when Alundra got let go. Her contract ended, and next thing you know, she's on Nitro dumping the women's championship in the garbage. Then you got Trish Stratus, multi-time women's champion. First woman, along with Lita, to main event a Monday Night Raw. Multi-time champion, as I said, Hall of Famer, Canadian. I gotta go with Trish Stratus, beating Alundra Blaze.
All right, Steven, how about you?
So Alundra Blaze definitely blazed the trail, no pun intended, for a lot of these women wrestlers. But because it's Alundra Blaze, I'm going Trish Stratus. She's won 7 women WWE Women's Champion. She's a Hall of Famer. She's Woman of the Year 4 times. Woman of the Decade. So it's an easy one. It's Trish Stratus.
All right, so this will be our first 3-0 of the night. I went with Trish as well. If it had been Medusa, it'd be a different story. But where it's Alundra Blaze, won't have to say that name again. It's part of that mid kind of 90s feel where there wasn't a lot of things going on that were great. I mean, WB was in the transitional phase. The women, you kind of saw where they're on the way out. I think Alundra's main feuds were, I think, Bertha Faye and then who was it? Bull Nakano. There wasn't much else other than that I can remember. So, and then you take Trish Stratus, who basically a sports model turned into wrestler, turned into, like Sean had said, main event in Raw with Lita, to having the all-star career that she had. And you know, it's when you take Alundra Blaze and put her up against Trish Stratus hands down. So 3-0 for win for this one. Go on next.
They also brought in Aja Kong for Alundra, but still, it was flavor of the month.
Yeah, it was like the Hulk Hogan era, where just kind of just looking around for talent to feed to Hogan. In this case, it was Alundra. All right, Steven, you're up next. First round pick, Sasha Banks, China. Who's your win?
Well, I'll tell you why I'm picking this person. She's won Feud of the Year, Match of the Year, Woman of the Year, and she ranked number 2 in the top 50 female wrestlers. She's been 6-time champion. I'm going Sasha Banks. I never got China, the gimmick. She was this muscle-bound she-woman, and I never got it. Sasha Banks can go in the ring. She's got the attitude. She's got the division to go with her. So I'm going Sasha Banks.
Looks like Sean's tiebreak in this one. So I went with China. Reason for it, because basically when she came into the WWF, she was a game changer. She basically was like, who is this woman? You could start to see the Attitude Era, start to take off in this and that, and especially when she started wrestling, getting in the ring. I think she was was she part of the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, she was in the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. So she was the first. I think Beth Phoenix was the only other one I can think of. And then you think about the women's championships that she had. You think about the fact she was IC champion. I mean, that just added to it. I know we're talking about greatest women's champions, but the fact is, when I think China, I think power. Sasha Banks, when I think of her, she's very skilled, but I don't think her size would be able to compete with somebody like China. And I'm not talking China at the very end of her career in WWE. I'm talking China when she first came in, that brute force. Yeah. For those listening on audio, anyways, but it's hard to go, power versus skill in this one. I had to go with China. I think she just outpower Sasha Banks to the end. So, Sean, you're left with a tiebreaker here. Curious to see who you're going to go with.
Well, you had China showing up as a bodyguard for Triple H, which gave her the uniqueness of being around. But when you look around the rest of the landscape, you had somebody like Marlena, Terry Reynolds. She got tossed around like a rag doll.
Didn't you put Alexandra York in the friggin' that manager thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
But
continue.
just there, tossed around like a rag doll by this beast. Then she beat Ivory when Ivory was at her lowest point, basically as part of the right to censor. And yeah, the size, clearly she's going to beat her, but really she was more of an attraction like Andre the Giant. You look at Sasha Banks, Steven said it. She's got all around, has the look, the ability. She has the passion to want to be in the business. She wasn't found on the at some gym and looked at immediately like a freak and go, oh, let's bring her in. She had no China had no business or desire to be in the business. Sasha, hands down, wants to be in there. She wants to be the best, and she's part of the 4 horsewomen of professional wrestling. Sasha clearly is moving on to the next round to go against Trish Stratus.
Okay, piss on both of you guys. China was trained by Kowalski, by the way.
Yeah, only because Triple H brought her there.
Well, it does not matter. She was still trained by Kowalski. Who was Sasha Banks trained by? That was Johnny Rods, wasn't it?
And then the Performance Center and learned cutting promos from Dusty.
Yeah, I put it in there. So it's Trish Stratus, Sasha Banks in the next round. I'm not happy about it, though. But my pick up next, this is going to be fucking brutal. Charlotte Flair, Sherry Martel. Sherry Martel. So when I was growing up as a kid, it was AWA on TSN all the time. TSN used to be part of ESPN. I think still are. But the fact is, you always saw Sherry Martel. You saw her with the, Sean had talked about the tag team stuff with Playboy Buddy Rose and Doug Summers, feuding with the Midnight Rockers, then coming over to, WWE and always being relevant for probably a good 10, 15 years. You know what I mean? But her skills in the ring, she made people look better. I mean, even right down to, I think, at one point, Fabulous Moolah went to become a face, and Sherry was a heel. She was making Moolah look good. She was basically the greatest women's wrestler to me in the 80s. I mean, nobody could top her. The only one that came close in my mind was Medusa, who honestly isn't in this contest, and she could easily be. So, but then you have Charlotte Flair. And I will second every statement you made about Sasha Banks in this one. When it comes to Charlotte Flair, the fact is she's, homegrown. She has developed a skill. Here's somebody, and you talk about China didn't want to really be part of the business. Charlotte Flair really didn't want to do it either. You know what I mean? You go back to WrestleMania, what was it, 27? Ric Flair retired, and you see Charlotte Flair in the crowd, and she just looked like a normal, everyday, average girl. And to see the transformation that she's made, the championships that she's accomplished, the main events the main event at WrestleMania, the women's main events she's had at WrestleMania, she is basically the force in wrestling as far as WWE goes. She is basically her dad. On the other side of things, Tessa Blanchard, and I hope these two match up somewhere in this tournament. These guys, I think, are the two Hulk Hogan and Ric Flairs of today's generation for women. So here you go, Charlotte Flair hands down in this one. And Steven, is it a bug on the screen or what?
Oh, I'm trying to figure out why you thought Tessa Blanchard should even be in this tournament, but that's another story.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. So, yeah, not Tessa. Well, Tessa will move on in my book, so there's my early pick for there. But, Charlotte Flair for the win in this one. Sean, where you at?
This was the one that I could not decide on when I saw the brackets only a couple minutes ago before we went on record. And, yeah, like, as you said, Sherry was basically the epitome of women's wrestling in the 80s, especially with the in the WWF when she got moved over from the AWA, and she was heading up the heel side of things. But it was also a dying breed at that time too, where you had a very ancient Fabulous Moolah, and you had Rockin' Robin and Wendy Richter there, and the Jumping Bomb Angels and all that, but they were just a sideshow attraction. If you were to look at your upcoming event coming to London, it would be Hulk Hogan and blah, 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 and all these other people, Piper, Then the women and midgets. They were always a side attraction, not a mainstream thing. And she basically was like a Alundra Blaze, just getting through what she could. She had a job there and did Peggy Sue for Honky Tonk Man because she needed something to do. Then they put her as a manager. But yeah, wrestling wise, compared to Charlotte and everything going on there, you had it right there as well. She did not want to be part of the business, but she's doing it in honor of her brother and is excelling even beyond her dad. If you ask Rick who's better, him or his daughter, he would hands down say that Charlotte is better than him just because of everything she's gotten to do compared to him. He might have been able to do 60-minute Broadways, but he was not wrestling as often as what Charlotte basically is in this era. And all the championships, part of the 4 horsewomen, it's a nucleus of those 4 that help bring in the evolution. So Charlotte is moving on in my case.
So you guys actually made me change my mind. I originally had picked Sherry, but I actually switched to Charlotte. She, right now, I would say would be the best female wrestler in the business, hands down. I would have loved to see these 2 in their primes, each of them, because that would have been a hell of a match. But Sherry was there. Don't get me wrong. Women's wrestling, like Sean said, wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. So I'm going Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, you're right. If Sherry would have had more competition, you think about Sherry in this generation being as great as she was, as young as she was when she was wrestling. It's like she would be a powerhouse, just killer in the ring. So, but
and a lot of the women's matches in that time were like 10 minutes or less, just at a house show, and barely getting a TV time. Like, I think they were just desperate to put something on the first Survivor Series to have a all-women Survivor Series match when they also had the tag team, the Intercontinental division, and the world, the heavyweight division. So they threw in that match just to be there.
Yeah. I wonder how many people out there missed the Glamour Girls. No comment. All right, we'll leave it at that. Sean, you're up next. Curious to see where people are going to go with this one because you got old versus new. So Fabulous Moolah taking on Bailey. I know Sean's thoughts on the whole 4 horsemen women, or 4 horse women of wrestling, so to speak. So I was curious if he's going to go over, basically Trailblazer versus somebody who's still fun in the mold. So yeah, anyways, Bailey versus Moolah.
Well, for starters, yes, a 4 horsewoman, the first Grand Slam winner of all the belts in WWE available. The most underrated, I would say, of the 4 horsewomen. Everybody thinks of Charlotte, thinks of Sasha and Becky first. Jockeying for position between those 3 is who's the best, and Bailey's often number 4. Bailey did more than the other 3 by becoming the first Grand Slam champion. Now, regardless of who was in this bracket at this point, they were going to advance because in my case, I am disqualifying Fabulous Moolah for being a dirtbag, pimping out all the women, having a 35-year championship reign over what? A whole bunch of prostitutes that she basically brought in for her pleasure to make money off of, and also pin to make her look good and make a buck off. So for being a dirtbag, Will is disqualified.
Notice he didn't say scumbag. He changed that to dirtbag. So scumbags are still good. Dirtbags are bad, eh?
Hey, she makes scumbags look bad, okay? So
right.
That's why.
Steven, we know where Sean stands on on this. Where are you at?
Well, let's start with Moolah's accomplishments. 2-time NWA Women's Tag Champ, 5-time NWA Women's Champ, NWA Hall of Famer, 2003 Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, Stampede Hall of Fame, 4-time WWF Women's Champ, WWF Hall of Famer. She's won JAPW, USWA, Women's Champions. And then we got Bayley, who she's won, one NXT Women's Champion, 1 Raw Champ, 2-time SmackDown, 1-time Women's, Money in the Bank. I'm going Bayley, just because of Moolah being Moolah.
Dude, what the fuck? You just mentioned all those accomplishments, and you're like, well, no, I'm going to go Bayley.
Because I can't get over what Moolah's done to people. Next.
Dark side of the ring, baby.
All right, so based on accomplishments alone, I went with Moolah. Okay, so that was my vote. But that has nothing to do with her character. It's, I mean, you want to talk about Dark Side of the Ring, they also did a documentary on Chris Benoit, so we know where his talents were in the ring. Unfortunately, it was even worse than Moolah outside of the ring. But, all right, I'll give you that. Steven just basically named off all the accomplishments I was going to name off, and then basically went to the fucking dark side himself. So we'll leave it at that. Moolah is done. Bayley advances. Steven, you are up next. Let me just throw this score in here officially. The second one I fucking hate you guys on. Angelina Love versus Tessa Blanchard. I think, well, Steven, I know who you're voting, but tell me why.
Because I hate fucking Tessa Blanchard. Oh, I can't just use that as my excuse. She's was ranked number 2 in the top 50 female wrestlers in 2009 and 2010. She's our ROH women of honor, fucking women's world champ, 6-time knockout champ, 1-time knockout tag team champ, or tag team knockout tag champ tournaments winner. She's been in global tournaments. And did I mention I fucking hate Tessa Blanchard? So I'm going Angelina Love.
All right, so I can't knock Angelina Love's accomplishments because, case in point, the fact is, yes, ROH, Impact Wrestling, TNA Wrestling, she's stayed relevant even though she's taken some breaks for a while now. I remember watching her way back in the Ontario independent wrestling days and how far she's come. She is one in herself. She's basically a superstar when it comes to the ring. For somebody who's that skinny, I still can't believe she can put on the matches that she can. Like, she's still somewhat of a powerhouse. However, you want to talk about powerhouses, and then on the other side of things, you got this lady named Tessa Blanchard, who I fucking love, Steven. No comment to that. Okay. Anyways, Tessa is the future. For every Charlotte Flair, there is a Tessa Blanchard. For every Luke Skywalker, there is a Darth Vader. So the fact is, they are going to end up fighting someday. Is going to be probably one of the greatest women's matches of the history of the business. So I'm going Tessa Blanchard, simply because of the fact she is third generation. She is an Impact Wrestling former women's champion. We were there live watching, and I marked out. She's the number of women's accomplishments she's accomplished, including WOW. Fact is, I'm a Tessa Blanchard mark. So Tessa Blanchard, put her out there in the her on one side, Kenny Omega on the other side. There you go. But Sean, you're breaking the tie on this one. I'm going Tessa. Steven, you can fuck off. Sean, who's your pick?
Well, you got Angelina Love, who worked the independent scene here in Canada. Even got to be a part of FCW, but then took off before it became NXT. Joined up with Impact or TNA at that time. Did the Beautiful People, all the accomplishments that Steven said about her. But it was TNA. Tessa Blanchard has done all the other stuff that was accomplished with the different championships around the world. She's been part of the Mae Young Classic. She's proven herself other places. Yes, she is part of Impact Wrestling and been their champion and now their men's champion. But I think it was a bad decision she went there, but she is so young that she has a huge future ahead of her, and Tessa will be back in a mainstream place, whether it's AEW or WWE, and we're going to see better matches, I think, in the future. But I'm picking Tessa to go over Angelina Love.
Oh, I can't wait till next round. You want to talk about accomplishments listings? Yeah, wait for it, Steven. It's going to be about 10 minutes of your life you're never going to get back.
We're never going to see Tessa Blanchard in WWE. Never.
No, but there is this AEW thing that exists.
Yeah, but you're never going to see Charlotte Flair go across. Tony Khan already said he ain't ever going to offer Charlotte Flair a contract because he doesn't want to have her have to disrespect WWE. So they'll never fight. Charlotte would never love herself.
Well, in this tournament, who just moved on? Tessa Blanchard. So yeah, we can go from there. Fucking Jim Cornette.
Yeah.
Anyways, so next pick is mine, and honestly, I still haven't made a decision about this. So I'm gonna basically go with the history that Mae Young had in the business. For you guys saying basically fuck Moolah, there was the other part of things. There was the Mae Young, who basically honestly was a trailblazer. I can't think of anything that was ever said bad about her. She essentially was the female in every positive way that a lot of women looked up to, getting into the business way back in the day. Then you got Natalya, but the fact is, I don't think with what we've seen Natalya accomplish, and I don't know if it's just basically creative, but I don't think we've ever seen full Natalya as far as WWE goes. She's been champion a few times, but she's never been able to carry that championship the way a champion should. She's been tag team champion with, or not tag team champion, but split champion with Beth Phoenix as far as the Divas title went. But the fact is, that is the biggest memories I can think of as her being champ. So as much as I love Natalya, as much as I love her being Canadian, I got to go with Mae Young in this one just for the historical factor to it. Sean, who are you going with, Mae Young or Natalya?
I'm going with Natalya just because of the longevity of her so far with WWE and what she did to get to WWE, regardless of her championships as well, which have been scarce. She's been there through the Divas time. She's been there now through the Evolution, and she's been basically the rock of the women's division, even if you have people like AJ Lee and all them coming up and down and leaving. She's been there. The other divas left, the new Evolution are in, but every week you're still seeing, even probably tonight on Monday Night Raw, Natalya's going to be there. So I'm going with Natalya advancing.
Steven with the tiebreaker.
I'm going Natalya because I love her. I think she was ranked number 4 in the top 50 in 2011. In 2018, she was still ranked number 11. She's won a Divas champion. She's been a SmackDown Women's champion. She was the Women's Wrestler of the Year in 2005 in Stampede Wrestling. I'm going Natalya.
All right, so 2-1, Natalya moves on here. Sean, you are up next. As you're doing this, I love Gail Kim, but I'm looking up stats on Toyota, so it might change things for me. But your picks between Toyota and Gail Kim.
Are you able to let us know about anything about Toyota? Because I think earlier we were all kind of not sure, and Jonesy had actually picked her. I was trying to get some info why he picked her to be in this tournament. I know that she's obviously a highly decorated champion in Japan, but unfortunately, I'm not sure. So,
okay,
you provide us with details?
Yeah, here goes for you. So, she was only born in 1971, so she's only 49, so she's still somewhat young. Won her first championship in 1989. But as far as her championships go, All Japan Women's Pro Wrestling, AJW Championship 1 time, Pacific Championship 2 times. Her list of championships in All Japan was huge. Japan Grand Prix 1990, 95, 98, 99, so almost a 10-year span. Tag League the best, which is I'm assuming is kind of like World New Japan Tag League, but 1993, 94, 96, 99, 2001. A lot of championships going on. But then you get down to the bottom of what I'm reading here, and Match of the Year 1993, this is Wrestling Observer newsletter. Match of the Year 1995, Most Outstanding Wrestler 1995, Reader's Favorite Wrestler 1995, and then Wrestling Observer Newsletter Hall of Fame, which is completely tough to get in, class of 2002. So huge accomplishments as far fuck off. I'm a Meltzer fan, but huge accomplishments as far as the All Japan scene goes. The problem is, I mean, this is somewhat before the internet existed, so it wasn't freely available. I'm sure if you go back and watch some of her matches, absolutely amazing. But like I said, then you put her up against Gail Kim. So she is a great Japanese wrestler from the looks of it. I don't know enough about her. I'm not sure if Jones just typed in Japanese wrestler and that's what came up, but I'm sure he's got his reasoning for it. But she is accomplished. I'm curious about seeing some of her stuff. So, but I don't know if that's going to change mindset on anybody right here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that don't know enough, and unfortunately, some of the accomplishments that you put out there, as soon as you were saying Match of the Year from like Dave Meltzer and 5 stars this, 5 stars that, he hands it out like it's Halloween candy. So, and of course,
I want to get your thoughts on something.
If it's attached to anything Japanese, then of course he's throwing even more stars at it, as though it's like ticker tape parade at Mardi Gras and throwing out beads, because the man is so obsessed with Japanese wrestling. I'm not knocking Japanese wrestling, but he has a totally different scale between what happens over here in North America and what happens over in the Orient. And the guy always has got a phone line open for Terry Taylor. Like, this is your fountain of information, and we're relying on him to give a observation on something objectively. I hate to say no to her with all those accomplishments, but it is Gail Kim. She's Canadian. Won her WWE Championship on her first night there. Of course, she left the company in a battle royal by eliminating herself, but that's here nor there. She's one of the top female wrestlers of all time. Been now the guiding light basically for the Knockouts division over in Impact and TNA, and I gotta give it to Gail.
I feel like he's going to go 3-0, but Steven?
Well, the fact that she's guiding light at Impact kind of takes away from Gail Kim, because, well, but I assume that Kenny Omega was probably booking the women over in Japan just because that's his thing with Dave Meltzer. So I'm going Gail Kim just because I don't know enough about this Toyota girl, but I'm going Gail Kim. I could get you going, but I'll just save it for later. I'm sure we'll get into it in the next round. I can already see it. So
can't wait to the first fucking tournament that Kenny Omega's in. It's gonna be war.
me and Sean will vote him out right away. Just bye.
I'll make sure we have 5 that week. I tell you that much.
I will make sure that we make sure he's gone right away.
That's Kenny Omega messaging me. Anyways, I get it.
How can he make AEW better?
Huh?
He's probably asking, how can I make AEW better? Because we suck.
I'm like banned it from Steven ever watching it ever again. Anyways, before we get off track, Gail Kim for the win, 3-0. Don't know enough about Toyota. Not saying anything bad about her accomplishments, but the fact is, Gail Kim, former Impact Wrestling champion, former WB champion, huge influence in a lot of the careers, and still the fact that she's helping out. We get to see her here in London and just the passion that somebody like Violet Lee had for her. The like, holy shit, I'm posing with Gail Kim, or holy shit, I'm in the ring with Gail Kim. You know what I mean? So she was a transitional champion in a lot of ways, but the fact is, when she had that match with Tess Blanchard, she showed that she could still give and take it. But the fact is, she was part of that Divas division, but she can wrestle. I mean, she was trained by Ron Hutchinson, I think, in Toronto under a mask. What's that?
Apocalypse.
Yeah, AWF. It used to go by La Felina under a mask, but I remember way back in those days. And Beth Phoenix was part of that group as well. So, but Gail Kim for the win in this one, 3-0. Steven, you are up next. Last match of the first round. This is going to be tough because I know one of Sean's picks was did you pick Nakano, or was it somebody else?
I picked both.
Oh, you picked both. So this will be interesting. Steven, Nakano, AJ Lee, who wins?
One of these I'm not really a big fan of because she was part of the Divas and I didn't think she could wrestle. And the other one was Bull Nakano, who has won 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 women's champions between Japan and the WWF and Mexico. She's entered, for whatever this is worth, the Wrestling Observer's Hall of Fame in 2001 with Uncle Dave. But Bull Nakano, I was actually watching her versus Alundra Blaze from SummerSlam just before we recorded, and I forgot how good she was. I was young when that match was on, but I'm going Bull Nakano. I forgot how good she was. I was not an AJ. I didn't like the women in the Divas area because it wasn't entertaining wrestling necessarily. But I'm going Bull Nakano. And I'll probably be outvoted on this one, but.
So it looks like Bull Nakano for the win. I'm curious to see who Sean picked, though. I had to go Nakano. And you know what? Fucking Uncle Dave, fine. I'm a big fucking Japanese fan as well. I mean, that was part of the drawing power back when I was a kid and growing up and this and that. Anybody who came out with face paint or had that Japanese music way into like fucking Tajiri, you know what I mean? I was always a mark for guys with face paint, masks, whatever the case might be. Nakano was just, she was that and scary. I mean, she had that hair, you know what I mean? And then the obviously the face paint that kind of went along with it. And then we get to see her last summer, and she's still, I don't know how old she is now, but she still looks like she can kick some ass, you know? But when I think about her, I think about, I'm still not a lot familiar with her Japanese stuff, but I know when she came to WWE, she was just a huge fucking powerhouse. And it's like, almost like China would be. So AJ Lee, unfortunately, the fact is she wasn't matched up with enough competitors. The timing of when she was really a wrestler was Paige was just coming in, and all of a sudden some of her highlights was the whole WrestleMania where she ended up fighting like 15 women at once and still came out on top. And then the affairs with Daniel Bryan and CM Punk and Kane, I think at one point, and all this sort of stuff. So to me, she was part of that Divas crowd, and she wasn't a real full-fledged wrestler. So to put her up against somebody like Bull Nakano hands down, and especially Steven, you mentioned all the championships that Nakano had won. How do you even compete with that? So 2-0. So Nakano's going to move on, but Sean, I'm curious to see who your pick was going to be.
Well, I was a huge fan of AJ Lee when season 3 of NXT, when it was the competition version, came out and it was all women. She was basically my pick to win that. It turned out it was Caitlyn, but then they had a good series of matches with each other. They brought out the best in each other that way. As you said, against Paige, she was basically that division at that time, and that's why I chose to put her in here. And I also was trying to make sure I covered at least one from every section. But I chose Bull Nakano with the way this lined up. Like, yes, she was the flavor of the month or whatever, like we mentioned earlier, when against Alundra Blaze. But she won the belt from Alundra. She carried it. There was a reason for bringing her in for sure. And then we saw her last summer at the Summit, and hard to believe that it was the same woman. Like, totally changed. Probably dropped at least a good 75 to 100 pounds compared to what she looked like in the 90s going against Medusa. And yeah, just unfortunately, the way this lined up, AJ's out, Bull's still in.
All right, so your official pick was Nakano as well, eh?
Yep.
All right, so 3-0 there. So that concludes the first round. I was just, while you were talking, I was just checking out pictures of Nakano back in the day, and like, holy shit, like she was scary looking. Almost like the first version of Awesome Kong, eh? Just the scariness, the toughness, everything else. So, your guys' surprises for first round, just while I bring up the second round bracket here.
Yeah, everybody that I picked made it through. There was that toss-up with Sherry and Charlotte, but yeah.
There's only
That's about it.
Only one match that who I picked didn't move on, so.
And Juliana Love?
Yeah, over fucking Tessa Blanchard. Are we fucking kidding?
Sorry.
And this is why we always have an odd number on the show, to make sure it's fair, Steven.
Maloney still has my Tessa Blanchard autograph picture.
Yeah, in a binder in plastic, and I'll eventually get it to you. Quarantine COVID shit's not happening though.
That's
Anyways,
worth a penny.
Huh?
So that's worth about a penny.
Yeah, plus a couple $1,000 on top of that. So second round, I'll announce them here, and I think I am up first, so you have to give me a second. But Trish Stratus taking on Sasha Banks. That is going to be tough. Charlotte taking on Bayley. That's going to be interesting. Tessa Blanchard taking on Natalya, and then Gail Kim taking on Bull Nakano. Jeez, a lot of good matches taking place there. So I think, like I said, I am up first. Sean has disappeared. So
somebody that I would love. Well, I mean, Trish in her like her prime versus Sasha in her prime. Gail Kim versus Bull Nakano. You could substitute Bull Nakano out for Awesome Kong. It's some very interesting matchups here.
Sean, of the matches coming up, just while I make my picks, what's the toughest one that you see right there that's going to be hard for you to decide?
Yeah, it could end up being the 4 horsewomen match. And partly because of what I'd like to maybe see in the next round with that. So it's like, which way do you go?
All right, so I'm ready for this. So Trish Stratus and I said that right, Sasha Banks. Isn't this one? Or no, it was. Is it Trish and Sasha that was always rumored, or was it Trish, or was it Sasha and? Or no, was it Trish and Alexa? What was the match that was supposed to take place at Evolution, and all of a sudden Alexa got? No, it was Alexa. It's supposed to be Alexa versus Trish Stratus, which would have been, and Alexa wasn't in this thing either. But you got great Canadian model, ends up being WWE Hall of Famer, taking on Sasha Banks, who basically is legit Hall of Famer. I think when it comes down to the two of these guys, and this is where I go the other way, but I think Sasha Banks takes this one. Way too much skill for Trish. As much as Trish grew with the business and became what she became, Sasha Banks just has a grittiness about her. The fact is, she can go. She's, when you talk about Charlotte Flair and her dominance, Sasha was one of those people who could take it to Charlotte Flair easily. She's believable in her character, and the fact is, any given night, I think she can win a championship. Trish, without Lita, I don't think she would have been as great. And the fact is, with Trish, she didn't really have a lot to work with. Not a lot kind of powerhouses like the Baileys, the Charlottes, even the Nia Jaxes and stuff like that, So I'm going to go Sasha Banks just because of the fact that we still haven't seen the best of Sasha. So when you think of Trish's career versus Sasha Banks, even right now, I got to go Sasha Banks for sure. So Sean, you're up.
Well, you did point out that Sasha has all those accomplishments. She was in that Iron Woman match. She did the cage match. I think even Hell in a Cell. But I'm going with Trish. Trish did a lot for the women's wrestling at that time. Like, there was still, even if it was a Divas era, there was a division between the Divas and the ones who could wrestle. And so you had Trish, Ivory, and Lita doing that side of things while everybody else was just doing the Stacy Keibler, who I love, and Tori Wilson and all them others, Kelly. So there was a definite change there, but they set the bar high for when women's wrestling did start becoming a huge thing. They still were compared to Lita and Trish before being established. So I'm going with Trish, to the original.
All right, Steven for the tiebreaker. How was that?
I didn't expect something else to play. I was waiting. This should tell you who I'm picking. And for very good reasons. I think, like you said, Chris, without Lita, Trish isn't Trish that we know. There just wasn't enough competition for her. And Sasha, I just love Sasha Banks. I love the gimmick that she can go. This could go either way, but Trish just didn't have the competition other than Lita. So, to me, Sasha Banks moves on.
And this broke my bracket.
All right, and in saying that, you're up next there, Sean. So you can at least start the next round of the next part of the bracket. Charlotte Flair taking on Bayley. So you got 2 four horsewomen going up against each other, and when you think about the scene itself, real life, Bayley never measures up to Charlotte. So it's interesting to see champion versus champion who takes it. Who's your pick?
But Charlotte has not been a Grand Slam champion either. So a lot of Charlotte, as much as I do think she's got the ability, her name value has gotten her a lot further as well. I'm going to throw Bayley in there as winning.
Wow.
I know I'm going to get outvoted, but if this were actually going to happen in real life, we'd finally get the Sasha Bayley rematch from, as I pointed out earlier, the Iron Woman match, the submission match. Like, they had NXT in the palm of their hands. It wasn't Charlotte. It was Sasha and Bayley who were the ones leading basically NXT at that time. And, overall, I got to go with Bayley over Charlotte. I know I'm going to be outvoted, but carry on.
Steven?
I'm going with what I will call probably the best women's wrestler now, and probably for the next foreseeable future. I'm picking Charlotte Flair only because she is literally carrying those women's division on 3 brands on her back. You could pick any woman wrestler right now in any company, and Charlotte Flair could make her look like $1 million. And to me, that's what makes the greatest world champion out there, Charlotte Flair.
All right, so me and Steven agree. Charlotte Flair is advancing. Reason for it, for every accomplishment that she has had. The fact is, like I said before, she didn't want to be a wrestler. She's doing it out of love for her last name, as well as for her brother Reed, who tragically passed away. But in saying that, when you see Charlotte Flair, a lot of people don't talk about this, but she's got height. You know what I mean? To be able to do what she does at her height, you see Sasha doing the same stuff, Bayley doing the same stuff, but Charlotte Flair is almost like a giant. You know what I mean? You picture China trying to do some of the stuff that Charlotte Flair can do, and it's unheard of. And as far as, I guess, big women in wrestling go, she's tall and she towers pretty much over anybody. The only person I can think of that's even close to her right now would be Rhea Ripley. and I think Ripley's got a future. But when it comes down to Bailey and Charlotte, Bailey just does not stand out. She's like, oh, try Bailey, try, you know what I mean? But it's Charlotte is just way too much power and way too much skill. And the fact is, like I said, as far as she's come in the wrestling business, Charlotte Flair is an easy one in this one. So Charlotte 2-1 moves on to fight Sasha in the semifinals. Curious to see where Sean's going to go with that one. Steven, you're up next, though. And I don't know why I'm even asking you this, but Tessa Blanchard and Natalya.
I am picking Natalya because Tessa Blanchard fucking sucks. Next.
I feel like we heard this before.
I fucking hate her. She's fucking
Tessa Blanchard. And I said this, and I'm going to do this now because the fact is Sean might vote. I don't know where he's going to go with this. Tessa Blanchard, championships and accomplishments. You have a list of them. And what is this when I go up top? Oh, yeah, that's right. She's only 24 years old. She is quite possibly the greatest women's wrestler in the history of the business. If she can, if she can last, injuries, stuff that goes on outside the ring, because we know she has been in trouble with some of her, her female locker room girls and this and that. But the true grit I've seen in the wrestling ring as far as the pro scene goes, like I said, like that match with Gail Kim, the independent version of her that I've seen on multiple occasions as well. Tessa just has it. And like I said, the only one who's remotely close to Tessa right now would be Charlotte Flair. So I could go through a list of accomplishments, but it'd take me a good 10 minutes. But the fact is, Tessa is, like I said, the future on one side, and Charlotte's the future on the other side. So, Sean, it's your pick. Tessa Blanchard, Natalya. Natalya, and I love Natalya. I love the fact she's Canadian, but match against Tessa, I think it'd be a hard-hitting match, but yeah, Tessa wins. So, Sean, who's your pick?
This was probably a tougher one in this area. Future or present? That's the tough part because, as I said, well, even Natalya is past and present and still going strong. Oh, you're going to hate me, Steve. Tessa is advancing just because of the accomplishments that she's been able to do in multiple areas. But on the same token as what I said, Charlotte, a lot of it's her name value, but she is proving herself at the same time. So I am going to go with Tessa over Natalya.
All right, so next pick is mine. Final match of the second round, and we have got Gail Kim and Bull Nakano. Again, what I just said about Natalya, I love the fact Gail Kim's Canadian. I love the fact she's accomplished as much as she has. But when you put her up against somebody like Bull Nakano, it's one and done. Just too much power. So without going into the list of Nakano's accomplishments, the fact is, and like I said, when we saw her last summer, she looked like she could still go in the ring. And I think, who the hell was she beating up? Was it Zoe Lucas or something like that? It was Big Swole had just won the title, and Zoe Lucas was complaining. I think Nakano had come out to be part of that. But long story short, Nakano in her prime against Gail Kim, yeah, hands down, Nakano way too much power. So Sean, who's your pick?
I am going to advance Bull Nakano to the semifinals to go against Tessa. And just the overall accomplishments of Bull definitely puts her in this. Would be a tough competition to see them in real life against each other, especially in their primes of Gail and Bull, but I'm putting Bull into the semifinals.
All right, Steven in Toronto.
This is our first 3-0 in the second round. I'm picking Bull Nakano. I think she'd be too strong, too big. In her prime, she was just too much. And, I mean, we've seen Gail Kim versus someone similar to Bull Nakano. And, I mean, could she go? Yeah, but I'd still –
Welfare Queen?
Well, yes. I'm picking Bull Nakano.
So yeah, that is our first 3-0. I'm just bringing it up here. So the final four comes up, and it'll be interesting because you got Fantasy Warfare honestly, in the bottom half with Tessa and Nakano, imagine those two going at each other in their primes. But then you've got something that we've seen tons and tons and tons of times where I think Charlotte has, I think for the most part, always come out on top. So it will be interesting to see. So we'll just start it off. So next round, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, and Sean, I think you're up. So who's your pick in this one? You get your 4 horsewomen, 2 of them anyways, and basically you get your first crack at this. So go ahead.
Well, we've talked about all their accomplishments and stuff like that, but Sasha is my pick to advance. I think the type of matches she's had and the acclaim that she's gotten by doing those matches is my reason over Charlotte. So, yeah. Sasha.
Steven?
Don't get me wrong. I love both of these women. Probably 2 of my favorite, but I'm picking Charlotte. She is what I would call the gold standard of women's wrestling. I would put Sasha Banks probably number 2 in that list. Bailey and Becky would be 3 and 4. Lots of women I'd put in there. So I'm going to pick Charlotte just based on the fact she would be the gold standard of women's wrestling.
So the tough part about this is the fact is you've got fantasy warfare, but the fact is we've seen them so many times in the ring together, and you know how it usually plays out. And then you take all the accomplishments that I already mentioned, and the fact is, yes, Charlotte Flair is going on to the finals. And Sean, is it? I'm trying to pick your brain here, and I'm trying to figure it out. But is it the name, or you just don't think she's matching up to the name so far?
I think she's overhyped because of her name. I'm not taking anything away from her athleticism and everything, but would she have gotten as far as she has without the name and Daddy by her side?
Yes.
But then how much has Ric Flair actually accomplished for her? I think he's brought her down a couple levels as opposed to bringing her up.
Yes, well, when he's present, but still the name value.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this because Canadian wrestling fan, Natalya, has she benefited because of her name?
No, I think that's been a hindrance in a way. Maybe if she was Brett's daughter, but she's the Anvil's daughter.
So has she done? Okay, here's another question before we go into the last match, and I'm killing time right now because I know where Steven's going with his next comment. So, but has Natalya accomplished more in her career than Jim the Anvil Neidhart? I mean, legacy wise.
Oh, for sure. Like maybe on par between Who and the farting diva, but Jim had 2 tag team title runs with Brett, but then was kind of weak after that because even the new foundation didn't last long, and so Natalya a lot more longevity than her dad, so she's surpassed him.
All right, I think we killed enough time. But theory wise, next match, Tessa versus Nakano. Steven's up first. Steven picks not Tessa. I'm not picking Nakano. So Sean, it's your show once again, pretty much because we've already spilled about I fucking love Tessa. Steven hates Tessa. So Sean, it's your pick. Who's going on?
What her accomplishments were? I was looking at Tessa Blanchard's accomplishments.
At 24 years old, by the way.
I can see the only one that I can see, that's any, a real wrestling promotion would be Impact, and let's not call that a real wrestling promotion. But she's not could she be something? Yeah, but she's not getting the competition that she should be getting.
Okay, Steven. Okay, no, I am going to take my time to talk because you're putting her down, so I'm going to build her back up. So Tessa Blanchard, AAA champion, okay, PCW Ultra champion, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, ranked number 5 of the top female wrestlers in PWI 100 in 2019. Rise Wrestling, Phoenix Rise Championship one time. Rise Year-End Awards, Match of the Year 2018, Moment of the Year 2018 with Mercedes Martinez, okay? And guess what they did? They set a new world record at Rise 10, the longest one-on-one wrestling match in history at 75 minutes. She's also a Shimmer World Tag Team Champion. Sports Illustrated ranked number 3 in 2018, ranked number 2 in 2019. Women of Wrestling WOW World Championship one time. Women's Super Stars Uncensored WSU Championship. And the fact is, like I've said before, and I'm going to say again, she is 24 years old. Case in point, I am done.
Competition. She's in fucking nowhere. Impact is not going to help her career. Look at Bull Nakano. Bull Nakano would be too big, too strong. She would crush Tessa Blanchard. The only reason why Tessa Blanchard looks good is because she's the Impact Men's World Champion. If she was in WWE getting real women's competitions, because this is a women's championship tournament, how long, like she was fucking Impact, what'd she fucking win? The Impact Knockouts champion? That's like saying the three of us are the trios champion of Lucha Underground. It fucking means nothing. There was no fucking knockouts division. This isn't early, like when TNA actually had a fucking women's division. They fucking have no one there. They fucking go off into these like weird realms, like they're fucking smoking fucking acid or something.
She was also part of an AEW match, by the way. Do you remember that? Chelsea Green, Tessa Blanchard, Britt Baker, and who's the other one I'm forgetting? It's a 4-way match.
Is with me right now.
But she can do fucking amazing things with no matter where the hell she is, though.
But if we talk greatest women's champion, Bull Nakano, with all these women championships, or Tessa Blanchard with a few. I understand she's 24, but if you're looking at the greatest women's champion out of the two, it would be Bull Nakano.
Stunt double, handpicked by The Rock for fighting with my family, by the way.
Okay, but that's not greatest women's champion.
The Rock had that much faith in her to put her in his movie.
Not a women's championship that she won.
Okay, Sean, break this tie so Steven can shut the fuck up.
I did pick Bull to be in this tournament. Tessa's moving on. Battle of the Daughters of the Four Horsewomen.
And I got my fantasy warfare pick in this one. Holy shit, I don't know who to pick. This is gonna be interesting. But so we're going
tiebreaker on this one. This is great.
Yeah. We're going 2-1 on this. So, anyways, I will bring up the finals. Steven, we already know where your vote's gonna be.
Now I get to be the final vote.
Well, yeah, that's unfortunate. So it'd be interesting. So I'm up first then?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there we go, guys. There is the finals. Like I said, the basically, column A, column B, basically Darth Vader, Luke Skywalker right there. Charlotte Flair, Tessa Blanchard going up against each other in the finals. So like I said, finals, pick who we're picking and basically how it would go down and why we're picking them. And can't believe I have to go first in this one. This is BS, but this match has never happened ever, has it?
Unless it did in some developmental down in Florida.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, these two have never faced each other. They've been, around each other, obviously, growing up as kids, whatever the case may be, but I don't know if they've ever really been in developmental together. I know Tessa was part of, I think, the first Mae Young Classic, but Charlotte, I think, was probably NXT champion at that point or whatever the case may be. But long story short, you've got basically Tessa Blanchard, like I said, and like I've mentioned her accomplishments, she is 24 years old and has accomplished what she has. Charlotte Flair is 34 years old, so 10 years older, accomplished what she has. But when you think about it this way, so WrestleMania 27 was what year? Would have been 2009 or 8?
No.
Maybe.
Let me quickly bring that up because I'm trying to make a point to this.
2015?
27 was the one where Flair got retired, though, right?
Yeah, again.
No, it wasn't. Was it 26 then?
It's 24.
Was it 24?
Yeah, that would make more sense.
25 and 26 were Shawn and Taker.
So this WrestleMania that just passed was 35, right?
36.
And we're supposed to be wrestling fans. Anyway, long story short, Charlotte Flair had no inclination, I've said this, to be part of wrestling. Fact is, she has come a long way, and she is still only 34 years old. But Tessa Blanchard has accomplished as much as she has, and she is only 24. And you think about putting another 10 years on her career and see what she can do with it. And I don't know how much the COVID-19 thing is going to affect things, but the fact is she is rumored to be a free agent this coming summer. I don't know if they're going to be able to tack on time because she hasn't been able to wrestle. But the fact is, even if they do, she's a free agent come the end of the year. Somebody, Steven, I think you had said, or maybe it was you, Sean, that said Tony Khan will never hire Charlotte Flair. So we may never get to see this match real life unless, something happens someplace else. But the fact is, I think Tessa Blanchard becomes a free agent. I'm going to say this. I don't think she's sticking around Impact Wrestling. And I think one of the reasons is because right now you're seeing a lot of women being signed by Impact. They have Jordan Grace over there. So you're going to see Tessa branch out on her own, become something even bigger. I think AEW is going to sign her, and then you're actually going to get to see good matches because they will bring in not people to feed to her, but basically people to challenge her and give us good feuds. I never heard of somebody like Hikaru Shida before. She's doing phenomenal over there. Nobody even talks about Riho anymore, but fact is, Tessa has the ability to make people look great, such as Gail Kim. And I think, 24 years old, she would take to Charlotte if the match were to happen. But long story short, I think it'd be a dream match for me to be able to see. If a promoter could ever book this, it'd be greater than Jericho and Mike Tyson. But Tessa Blanchard for the sorry, had to make some humor out of it. But as much as I can ramble on about Tessa Blanchard and Charlotte Flair, the fact is I got to go Tessa Blanchard just because of the fact she impresses me, the amount of titles that she's had, and the fact is she's 10 years younger than Charlotte, and I think she could take it to her power, and again have a little more quickness than Charlotte because Charlotte is, like I said, almost mid-30s. So Sean, I don't know if you're gonna go with me or against me, but we know where fucking Steven's going with his vote. So basically, you're deciding things right now.
Can I just say that Super Porky versus El Torito would be better than Jericho and Tyson and be a main event anywhere? Why go there? Anyways, I am going to go with a second generation star, and Charlotte Flair is going to win in my case. I met Tessa. Great to meet her. She was hiding up above in the balcony, but we convinced her to come down, and you had pictures to sign and got pictures taken with her. But that doesn't mean I'm going to vote for her to win. Charlotte.
That's not why I voted for Tessa. That's just kind of icing on top of the cake.
I know.
Anyway, fucking traitors. All right, Steven. Say something nice about Tessa Blanchard because we here. Okay, there, officially done. Good. Charlotte Flair wins. Say something nice about Tessa though.
She was number 5 in 2019 in PWI's Women's 100, but the winner was number 2, which would be Charlotte Flair. And if Tessa Blanchard could ever get some real women's competition, this might have been changed. But the fact that she is fighting Impact Wrestling women, which is not helping her, I don't think going to AEW is going to help her either. They just keep finding these green people to put in the ring. I would love her if you say she's 24. The best thing for her would be to go to WWE, put her in the ring with Rhea Ripley, put her in the ring with Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Becky Lynch, if she comes back, Bayley, Alexa Bliss, Natty Neidhart.
Somebody's on TV right now, Asuka.
She's not even in the tournament. You would see probably a different Tessa Blanchard if you really think that she can go to the next level. I don't put her on Charlotte Flair's level right now. She's probably a notch below a lot of the women in WWE and TNA or in NXT because of the competition. You've got Rhea Ripley, who I put ahead of Tessa Blanchard just because of the competition that she is facing. She just was with Charlotte Flair in WrestleMania. Like she needs the women's competition, and going to AEW is not going to help her case because the Japanese girl fetish that your Kenny Omega has is not going to help. There's maybe 2 or 3 women wrestlers in AEW that are any good. Britt Baker, Nyla Rose. Yeah, that's about it. So,
somebody else they just flashed on the screen. The fantasy match for Tessa would be somebody like Shayna Baszler, right? Maybe interesting because you have Tessa is so quick and so strong against somebody like Shayna that could just trap her and much the same as Asuka. But I agree with you. I'll tell you this. I agree with you. But the fact is, I don't think we'll ever see Tessa Blanchard in WWE because the fact is there's a little bit of red tape there right now as far as Tessa Blanchard goes. Whether or not they would welcome her, and I know they wouldn't push her to the moon right away. I tell you that AEW will, but they will put her down in the Performance Center and attempt to recreate how she wrestles. Much the same. I mean, look at how successful Chelsea Green was in Impact Wrestling, and now she's doing the NXT thing. So I tell you this, she would have a lot more competition. Tessa Blanchard would down in NXT going into the main roster, but whether or not we ever see it happen, I don't know. But dream match, I don't care who books it, WWE, AEW, wherever it is, but book the 2 of them before Charlotte, says see you later, because maybe someday she wants to have kids, you know what I mean? But kind of a surprise, but kind of not as far as the win goes. Sean, who would you put against Charlotte in the finals if it was your pick?
Well, I was putting Trish all the way to the end as the winner, so a match that we got to see last year at SummerSlam, Trish versus Charlotte, eh? Yeah.
But who would you put Trish against?
From the other bracket, yeah, maybe Tessa, just because of the generation gap in age and skill. Anything's possible.
Steven, what about you? So I know Sean wasn't for Tessa because he doesn't think she's filled her father's shoes yet. But Steven, anybody that you thought might have had the chance to beat Charlotte?
I actually thought either Gail Kim or Bull Nakano. That was a lot. I think, or even Natty Neidhart. I think any of those 3, I think long-term greatest women's champions. To me, don't get me wrong, Tessa Blanchard could be a great women's one of the greats, but those 3 would be definitely greater than Tessa Blanchard right now in the greatest women's champions. She's not, to me, probably even in the top 16.
Who is this, Tessa?
Yes.
Okay, she is.
You even said she's been this far. She's 24. I could name 16 better women's champions than her right now.
All right, fair enough. But she's like I said, she's only 24, so we'll have to see.
But we're talking the greatest. That's
I know. So we'll have to. To me, she is one of the greatest so far. But give it another 6 years when she's 30 years old, see what happens, see where she ends up, everything else. So yeah, Charlotte Flair is officially your winner, greatest women's champion of Fantasy Warfare tournament. Again, check us out on Patreon. We will launch on YouTube every 3 weeks, so you'll see another episode coming up this coming Wednesday. I forget what was after. I think the last one was Greatest Ladies Tag Team. What was the next one that we did after that?
Manager?
Was it the Managers one? Yeah, so it was. So you'll see that on YouTube this coming Wednesday at 6. I think I like your guys' ideas. I'm going to announce this now as far as what I wouldn't mind doing. But Sean, and I think Steven, you're on board for this as well. What I wanted to do is do a greatest men's champions, but do it worldwide. Promotions such as New Japan Pro Wrestling, AWA, WCW, NWA, WWE, WWF, and so on, ECW even, and create a tournament of 32. Well, Sean upped it, and I think, Steven, you agreed with it, but doing one show, or one topic for the span of 4 weeks, and basically doing 64 of the top wrestling champions, men's singles champions, by the way, and then doing them in brackets. And then I think you guys had mentioned doing a final 4. Is that right?
Yeah, the final 4 would then be brought in on the 4th episode after we've narrowed it down in the 4 different brackets of 16, and then decide the winner of those.
All right, so I'm going to say right now, and we'll announce it right now, but we'll have 61 other entrants to include. I don't think the 4 of us are going to be able to do it, but actually 60, because Jones will be part of this as well. But guys, one pick each right now for who's going to be part of that tournament. Number 1 pick for you guys. Mine is Kenny Omega. Fuck you, Steven. Sean, who's your number 1 pick to be part of this?
Probably Macho Man.
All right, and Steven? Flair?
Greatest world champion.
Oh, I don't know. It could be who was that one guy there? Was it Tommy Rich? He was a horseman at one point, was he?
No.
Well, who am I? Oh no, Wyndham.
Flair.
Anyways, huh?
Ric Flair. Are you going
right.
to put Tessa Blanchard in because she's a men's world champion?
No, Tessa would not actually count with this one. But anyway, so we got Randy Macho Man Savage, we got Kenny Omega, we got Ric Flair, and then Jones will have his pick, and we'll have 60 other entrants. But guys, it's been great. Again, Charlotte Flair for the win in this one. And we'll be seeing us again on Thursday Night Throwdown this coming Thursday. Basically, next we'll announce it whether or not we're going to do the 64 right away. But I wouldn't mind doing it because the month of June is fresh, so we could do the whole month of June. Guys, any follow comments, end comments for you guys?
Nope.
No.
Good.
All right, so that is it, guys, for another episode of Fantasy Warfare Tournament on TNT. Catch us next week, exclusive to Patreon, like I said. And thank you very much, guys, and we'll see everybody again sometime soon.